What is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman back at it again with another video. Once again, we're back with Coach Me Up. It is week 4. Today, I have my friend Eli on the channel. He's also a part of the Built-in Buffalo team. Eli was awesome to have on, just like all of my Built-in Buffalo members have been so far. They're all just fantastic. Eli is no exception. Eli was a blast to talk with. It was just a great episode all around. As I still start to smooth things out with the series, he was just great and he rolled with all of the punches. So I want to say thank you for that. And thank you for coming on the channel. Eli, if you want to check out his podcast, he's also the Twitter operator for Built-in Buffalo, but he also does a podcast every single Saturday, so be sure to check that out on the Built-in Buffalo Podcast Network. Still improving as a host. I'm doing my best. I hope you can also stick with me and be patient. I'm doing my best. It will get better, I promise you, but I hope you enjoyed it. Before we get into it, though, you guys know the drill. Mott's applesauce. Eat, drink, consume your Mott's applesauce. It will never fail you. You have the Caveman guarantee. One freaking day, they will see these damn videos. I promise you, Mott's Applesauce will see these videos. I know it. Without further ado, week 4 of Coach Me Up with my buddy Eli. I hope you enjoy. All right, so I got my man Eli on the channel. He's also a part of the Built-in Buffalo team. We're going through all the Built-in Buffalo team members. Eli's on the channel for the week. Eli, why don't you tell everybody about your own podcast and what else you ever do?
Yeah, so I am, like Caveman said, I am part of the Built-in Buffalo team. I am one of the Twitter operators along with Alex and Justice. I also have my own podcast that comes out every Saturday called the All Day Buffalo Podcast. So you can look out for that every day or every Saturday. And yeah, right now we're just kind of going over whatever we can in this dry off season this year and kind of just being as creative as we can. But trying to have some guests on here and there. But it's always usually a pretty decent listen.
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. Go check out Eli's podcast every single Saturday. He's releasing something. He said every day at first, and that'd be pretty remarkable.
That's a grind. I'm not about that.
that'd be something else. But nevertheless, I am ready to pick at his brain. We're gonna start with brain freeze this time around. Last week with A-Rich, we did brain freeze last, and it kind of ended off not weird, but just because it was a more of a fast type of game, I felt like we should start with it for this week. So we'll start with brain freeze. All right, so you guys know how brain freeze works. I'm going to bring up a scenario that has happened in the past. I'm going to see if Eli could pick up on what is wrong with it or what maybe isn't wrong with it. There might be something wrong with the statement. Let's start with the easiest one. So in week 15 of the 2020 season, the Bills pass rush got to Drew Lock, and Jerry Hughes scoops up the fumble recovery and takes it down to the Broncos' 1-yard line. Is this 100% correct?
That is not 100% correct. Jerry Hughes took that one to the house.
Yes, he did. You got that one right. There you go. The easy one is out of the way, so let's up the ante just a little bit. All right, so the medium one. In the 2019 wildcard matchup between the Bills and the Texans, Deshaun Watson and the Texans are driving down the field in overtime when the Bills send a blitz that comes in fast off of each edge. Levi Wallace and Matt Milano come together on Deshaun Watson, but Deshaun Watson evades both of them, avoiding the sack and dumping it off to seal the game. Is this 100% correct?
I want to say that is 100% correct.
Yeah. Is it his final answer?
You're making me nervous with that response. I think it's dumping it off that is kind of tripping me up a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I guess it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that. Let's just go with this for the fun of the game. That dumping it off was not the correct part of that statement.
Okay, that's probably my fault because it really wasn't a dump off. It was like a 15-yard pass. I probably could have worded that a little bit different. The actual issue with the statement was that it was not Levi Wallace that came in off the edge. It was Saran Neal that came in with Matt Milano. And Saran Neal and Matt Milano came together, like bounced off each other. We don't need to talk about
it. Yeah, because I knew that it was Matt Milano.
Yeah,
and I knew it was it wasn't like another defensive end or a linebacker or something. So.
Yeah, and I also everybody would have known like it wasn't Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer either, so I couldn't use like one of the bigger names. So I wanted to throw somebody in there that wasn't exactly the most prime suspect. So we got you with the medium one. Yeah. I don't know if this one's necessarily harder, but I put it as the hard one. So let's do it. In the 2017-2018 playoffs, the Vikings were down extremely late in the game to the Saints. Kirk Cousins hits Stefon Diggs along the sideline, who turns upfield, and he's cementing what is known as the Minneapolis Miracle into history. Is this 100% correct?
No, that wasn't Kirk Cousins, was it?
No?
No.
It wasn't? Who was it?
It was Case Keenum.
It was Case Keenum. You got it. I got A-Rich. A-Rich last week. It slipped his mind. He did not catch it. I was hoping I'd be able to go on a streak of videos where I was able to use that one, but you got it.
That's good. That's like one of those, like, those memories for me, at least. That was just like one of the coolest games I've been able to see live on TV.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah, you just don't forget that.
Yeah, right. It's just one of those things. When I thought of it, I was like, maybe people just, they're thinking of the game. They think of Stefon Diggs making the play. They're not really thinking of who threw the ball. Because really, like, Case Keenum and Kirk Cousins kind of fall in the same
interchangeable.
Yeah, it's like you really wouldn't know the difference, like who was out there. Because Kirk Cousins would have made the same pass Case Keenum did. They're pretty much, nearly the same guy, except Kirk Cousins. Okay, that's a little disrespectful. He's a bit better, but still, you get what I'm saying. But good job. That was good. I'm glad you got that one.
2 for 3. I'll take it.
All right, so we'll move on to 2-minute drill. Eli went 2 for 3 on the brain freeze, which was pretty good. Like I said last week, A-Rich did not get the Kirk Cousins question, the Minneapolis Miracle. So Eli was able to catch that one. Let's go with the 2-minute drill. Everybody knows how this one works. Just 5 questions in a matter of 30 seconds. Eli is just going to answer with a yes or no question or a one-word answer. It's just supposed to keep him on his feet, making sure he answers relatively quickly. Let's start with the first question. I'll get the clock pulled up. So I'll start the clock once you answer the first question. And let's go. Are you happy with the offseason that the Bills have had up to this point?
Yes.
Over under 7.5 wins for the Carolina Panthers this season?
Under.
Prime LaDainian Tomlinson or prime Chris Johnson?
That's a great question. LaDainian Tomlinson.
Where would you currently rank Kirk Cousins among starting NFL quarterbacks?
Top 15.
Will Trey Lance be the week 1 starter over Jimmy G? If not, what week does he get his first start?
Jimmy G will start, and Trey Lance will come in as the starter after week 10.
There you go. Okay, good job. You were pretty quick with all of those. What did you say for the LaDainian Tomlinson one again? I didn't.
LT.
LT, you did say LT?
Yeah.
That one I thought of earlier. I wanted to get your opinion on that. I think I might ask it next week as well, because I feel like Chris Johnson's prime was, not as long, but LT put up ridiculous stats, and Christian McCaffrey not too long ago put up at least fantasy numbers in terms of fantasy football.
Yeah, the way I look at that one, between LT and Chris Johnson, Chris Johnson was just crazy. He had like a short burst of just insane number output, and then LaDainian Tomlinson, he's also, I got a soft spot for LT because that was kind of when I started getting into football and seeing LT. I was a huge Reggie Bush fan too.
Yeah.
So like Reggie Bush was at USC and he's killing it there, and then got into the league. Like the first jersey I ever bought was a Reggie Bush Saints jersey.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
And then
that's gonna upset Bill's Mafia. Yeah, he did. But
yeah,
I should have got that one. But LT. I
respect it. Yeah, definitely. I honestly don't know. Like, if I were to answer that question myself, I would have a hard time because I truly, I couldn't tell you which one I'd go with, to be honest. You said you were happy with the Bills offseason up to this point. Do you think that we haven't made enough moves, or would you say you're just content with the idea of development being enough for our team to, take that next step going into next year?
Yeah, I like most parts of it. I don't necessarily think that I liked the draft too much. I didn't hate it, but I think then you look at the fact that we were able to retain almost all of our guys from a 13-3 team. So you can't look at that as a bad thing. And then to the question about development, there's been no moment in being in McDermott's time where it hasn't seemed like they developed someone wrong. So I trust those guys and the coaching staff right now to develop until they can show me that they can't develop players. So I think that it was a good offseason. Training camp will be fun. I think we'll learn more about the offseason once training camp happens. So
yeah, that's very true. There's still a lot more of the offseason that is left to be played out. I just wonder because, you kind of opened my eye a little bit. You're saying the way that we're able to, develop players is very good. We're an elite system when it comes to bringing guys in and kind of molding them the way we want. I don't know. I just have been thinking I'm just sort of in this weird spot of the offseason where I feel like we haven't done enough, or we haven't taken those extra steps. The Kansas City Chiefs traded for Mike Hughes from the Vikings. They got Orlando Brown, a team that was already in the Super Bowl we're making moves this offseason to, get better. And I understand the idea of developing, bringing back the entire roster. It's all a good thing, but I just can't help but, feel a little bit off watching all these other contenders, making these moves to improve their roster. And we're just kind of sitting back and watching. And, in Bills fans' eyes, or in the Bills front office's eyes, they're not watching. They're just developing their own guys, which is fine. I can hear it. But I don't know. It just leaves me, feeling a little bit off just watching everybody else do a lot of different things.
Yeah, and that is a good point. But I think that like what we're, as Bills fans at least, are so used to, every offseason it's like we need that next guy, we need this guy, we need this guy, and you could even see it with like the free agents that were coming out. People were just going crazy about everybody, and it was like, guys, we don't need them,
right?
that. Like it's just like I think that at least for this season, it'll be good to see where this development goes, because we're going into, I think a crucial year for the Bean and McDermott team, to see where their development stands, because, it's like the Tremaine Edmonds, Trey White's going into his, fifth year. So just like a bunch of guys going into like crucial points in their career. So I think we're really going to figure out how well they are at developing.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. It is a good point. This will be a very, like you said, important year in terms of seeing what we can do with a team that's, pretty much the continuation of last year. It's literally just the same exact roster carrying over into this season. So I guess, I can't really speak on how I feel about the offseason until, one, it's over, and then two, once the season really begins and I see what we actually are made of in terms of the team that we have. You said, for the next question that I asked, you said under 7.5 wins for the Carolina Panthers, right?
Yep.
And I don't know how I felt about this, because on my channel I've been going through the different divisions and giving my predictions, and I just talked about the Panthers, and I don't know, because I just don't know what to expect from Sam Darnold with actual weapons. I'm not sure what he's actually going to bring to the table.
Yeah, it's just hard to expect too much out of the Panthers organization right now. I mean, there's just so much movement. I like their pick with J.C. Horn. I live in Charlotte right now, which is pretty funny that you asked that question. Yeah. So I would like to go to a few games and maybe see them win, which would be fun. But I think that they'll probably hit 7 wins. So that one was kind of tough for me. I was like, going back and forth in my mind with that. But Sam Darnold, it's a big year for him. He's definitely got to prove that he has the chops to, be a for real NFL starter. And it wasn't it was the system in New Jersey that was bringing him down.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It definitely is the year where he has to show that he can revive his career. And like you said, that it wasn't the Jets that were holding him down. And like you said, you'd think you would have him at 7 wins. That was in my prediction video. That's what I said. I said they were going 7-10, right at 7 wins.
Yeah.
Give or take, with some wins in there that were kind of toss-ups, because like I said, I just don't know what to expect. So I did give them some losses here and some wins there in terms of those toss-ups. Maybe they win all of those toss-ups. Maybe they lose and they come out with 8 or 9 wins. Who knows? But, with a healthy Christian McCaffrey, J.C. Horn, they got Jeremy Chin on the back end as well. You don't know. I really don't know what to expect from that team. And I'm kind of interested to see what Sam Darnold could bring to the table. And I'm almost rooting for him, because I don't know. He just has shown flashes here and there. And you're just thinking to yourself, like, what would he be like if he wasn't trapped in New York? So hopefully he's able to kind of revive his career. And the next question I asked was, where would you rank Kirk Cousins in the amongst NFL starting quarterbacks? And you said top 15. And I know it's tough to just give an exact number, on the spot like that. I think that would be fair. If I were to ask, maybe narrowing it down to maybe 2, like a range of like 11 to 13, or range of 2 spots, what would you say?
I would probably say 12 to 14.
12 to 14. Okay. Yeah, I think
I see him around 13.
I think I would agree with that too. I would consider myself, I feel like I've been talking about Kirk Cousins a lot in this video, but anyway, I don't know. I feel like Kirk Cousins, he was overrated. Now I feel like people see him as an underrated quarterback, but I just don't see, I don't know. I just don't think he's the franchise guy. He doesn't really have much of a role. I mean, the entire offense is ran through Dalvin Cook, and then he has to throw the play action pass occasionally. I get that he puts up pretty damn good numbers, and that's always the argument whenever I have this conversation, is that Kirk Cousins does put up relatively decent numbers in terms of just your basic statistics like yards, completion percentage, etc. And he's always getting the ball to his star receivers. But something about Kirk Cousins and the way he's argued with his receivers in the past. I don't know, just something about Kirk Cousins. I just don't really buy what he's selling. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, he does not scream like top 10 quarterback to me.
No,
not even close. And I think that with the weapons that he has, on Built in Buffalo, actually, we posted something on ESPN, like a top 5 of the best rosters, and the Vikings were number 5.
Saw that.
And so that goes to show they have talent, and they should be winning all these games, and they should be making all this noise. But it just never seems like the Vikings are ever like really for real.
Right.
So I don't know if you can put that all on Kirk Cousins, but you got to put a little bit on him. He is the
That's how I feel as well. It's like I know people are very big advocates of wins are not a quarterback stat, and I agree with that. I wouldn't consider wins to be a quarterback stat entirely, but at the end of the day, right? I mean, the quarterback is probably the player that is going to be most responsible of whether or not you come out with a win in any given game. So I just, like you said, I feel like they're never actually that team that, maybe they're good enough to make the playoffs, but you're not looking at your playoff spreadsheet and thinking like, oh, the Vikings are making a run this year. You're probably losing in the wild card or the divisional round. Like you said, I just don't see Kirk Cousins as that guy. So I don't know. I feel like people sometimes, especially a couple of my friends, they kind of overrate him, and it kind of makes me really angry, which is where my passion for this topic has come from. But nevertheless, let's move on to the final question I asked. I said, do you think Trey Lance will be the week 1 starter? If not, when do you think you'll see him? You said that Jimmy G will start, and then you will see Trey Lance week 10, correct?
Yes. So, the whole week 10 thing was pretty much a guess. And I think that's tough because, I think they want to kind of develop Trey Lance. And I think that you have to start Jimmy G. At least for, the last time we really saw a lot of Jimmy G was when they went to the Super Bowl. And then he was gone, and now you got a new guy in. And I think that you got to let Jimmy G at least show you that he's maybe not the guy to do it. And if he shows you that he is the guy to lead the Niners to another good playoff run, then you leave him in. And if he's not, I think that they'll give him a solid chance, and then Trey Lance will come in. And Trey Lance will be fun to watch too, because, he's a little bit Josh Allen-esque in his size and throwing ability. So I kind of got my eyes on the Niners this year, just straight from an interest standpoint, just because I think they're kind of an interesting team to watch.
Yeah, I completely understand that. And for some reason, I've been going through this offseason ever since they drafted Trey Lance under the assumption that he would be the starter for week 1. And then I read something on Twitter that said otherwise. And I'm like, where did I even get this idea from originally? and I started thinking about it. And last week I asked Rich, when do you think we'll see Justin Fields? We already know we're not going to see him week 1. He said we'll probably see Justin Fields around week 4. But if in the case, Andy Dalton is doing well enough, that's a good problem to have, right? And like you mentioned, if Jimmy G is playing well enough, they'll just leave him in. And like Rich pointed out last week, that is a good thing. That's a good problem to have. You have 2 capable quarterbacks that you feel like you could put in with confidence, and you just let your veteran ride it out. And I've always been a fan of letting the rookie sit a year, watch a lot of games, get that experience before you just throw them to the wolves, because we saw, what happened to Josh Allen. I mean, obviously he's turned out pretty exceptional, but nevertheless, I do think just the idea of sitting behind a veteran is always more beneficial for a younger guy. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is one example.
I was just going to say, Patrick Mahomes, that worked out for them.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's any other better example for something. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, even Aaron Rodgers, sitting under a veteran like that, just watching the game, I feel like is very imperative for the development of a player. And I think just how Josh Allen turned out speaks to the volume of our development here in Buffalo. But, maybe if we don't have that great development, who knows how Josh Allen turns out, because we did throw him into a dumpster fire. So thankfully, he was in the right hands, and things have played out perfectly up to this point.
Yeah.
All right, so we're moving on to Devil's Advocate, and this game is also pretty straightforward. I'm going to ask a relatively controversial topic. He's going to give me an answer. Whether or not I agree with his answer, I'm going to play the opposite side of the argument. Here is the question, Eli. Is it fair to consider players that have only played one season, maybe even not a snap in the NFL, in the top 10 or top 5 of their respective positions? For example, Justin Jefferson, or in some extreme scenarios, Kyle Pitts.
I don't think so. I think that you gotta see the production on the field first. I think that people are too quick to hop on. Like all these guys can play super well in college. Like Kyle Pitts, for example. Yeah, he is a certified beast, and he will probably be really good in the league. But I don't think that you can put him in the top, whatever 5-10 tight ends until he catches a pass, or until he gets a yard, until he scores touchdowns. He's just got to play. And if you think that he's a top 5 tight end by week 4, and he's been putting up top 5 tight end numbers, then yeah, he's a top 5 tight end. But if you haven't played a snap in the NFL yet, I don't think you're in the top anything. I think you're like in your own class. You're in like a rookie class of just, you can have top 5 rookies based on college stats, but I don't think that you can do that.
I would completely agree. What about actually, I'm not supposed to say that. What about Justin Jefferson? How do you feel about people putting him in, a top 10?
I don't hate that. I think that Justin Jefferson showed last year that he's definitely got what it takes. And talk about the Vikings a lot today.
I know. I didn't even connect. I know.
Yeah. But no, and he's also got a great wide receiver to learn from.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he's got like I'm not necessarily thinking he's got the right system to thrive in, because he's got Dalvin Cook there too. But Justin Jefferson put up really good numbers, and he was, everyone looked at that trade, the Stefon Diggs for the first round draft pick trade, to be like a perfect equal trade, because Justin Jefferson put out really good numbers and Stefon Diggs had the best numbers out of a wide receiver for last year. So if they're even anywhere close to comparable, I think that that's okay. And if Justin Jefferson had a bad season and you were still looking at college stats, then that would be the thing that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that it's fair.
Okay. And going back on the Kyle Pitts point, just to play the devil's advocate in the scenario, I think I would personally, just in such conversation, I would put Kyle Pitts in top 5, just because of the lack of talent that I feel like there is at tight end. We have Kyle Pitts, who's supposedly going to be this monstrous receiver in a tight end. There really aren't many of those in the NFL, besides for George Kittle, Darren Waller, and Travis Kelce. I think the fall off is pretty tremendous when it comes to actual production from tight ends in terms of receiving. So I think it would be fair to put a guy like Kyle Pitts, who is going to be this receiving phenom, in the top 5 already, just because there just isn't other phenoms, or there just isn't other receiving tight ends like that top tier that we have in the NFL.
Yeah, and that's completely understandable. Like you're completely right in that argument that the tight end position is pretty thin in phenom talents.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it just goes back to NFL production. If you're not producing in the NFL, or if you haven't produced in the NFL, I don't think that you can be put up with, you can't be behind Travis Kelce. You can't be behind George Kittle, because these guys have been doing it for years, and that's almost disrespectful to them, in my opinion.
Yeah, and before I touch on that, I also want to go back to the Justin Jefferson point. You said it would be, fair for a guy like Justin Jefferson in a specific scenario to be put in a top 10. Just to disagree with that, I would say it's just not, because personally, I'm not even putting this isn't even me playing devil's advocate. This is my actual serious opinion.
All right, cool, yeah.
I hate the idea that one guy can have one good season and then he's put in a top 10, because I think when people put a player like Justin Jefferson in their top 10, they're just assuming he's going to put up those numbers again. They're going off of 1 year, and then the rest of their opinion is based off of assumption, because, it's only one season. Guys like, I think it's personally disrespectful to guys like Odell Beckham, who, is still a top talent in the NFL. That dude is never talked about anymore. Let's be real here. The guy, he has fallen off in terms of the production because of injuries and, the volume that he's gotten in Cleveland. But, when he was dominant, like, I don't think anybody's taking anyone else over Odell Beckham. I mean, he was something special, and people were just so quick to forget about him just because of 1 year of no production because of injuries. And then all of a sudden, Justin Jefferson's your plug-in top 10. I'm not saying Odell necessarily is your top 10 guy to replace Justin Jefferson, just for the sake of example. I know people that are specifically on TikTok that would take Mike Evans and take him out of the top 10 in return for Justin Jefferson, which I don't understand either. I mean, Mike Evans is somebody that is just, in my opinion, a beast. Like, how can you take a guy that is consistently producing on the field year in and year out, out of a top 10 because Justin Jefferson had one good season? I don't know. I just think it's completely disrespectful to guys that have multiple years of solid production.
Yeah, I feel that. But, like, how do you feel about Josh Allen? Where would you put him?
That's always the counter. That's always the counter. My argument to that would be Josh Allen, obviously he's only had one good year, but we've had Josh Allen for 3 years now. So we know what we were seeing in Josh Allen. We saw his fight. We saw his compete level. We saw the raw ability that he had in his first season, even if his stats were not there, even if his statistical production just wasn't there. We saw, because we watched the games, what Josh Allen was about, and we just knew that as he started to grow, that he just needed the help around him. He just needed more experience under his belt, and he would get to a level like this. Maybe we didn't expect this level of production necessarily, but still, we knew that he was going to climb the ladder before things would go downhill in terms of Josh Allen. So that would be my argument, that it's been only one good year of Josh Allen, but we kind of knew he was gonna go uphill.
You could say that you had like a feeling, when he was like jumping over Anthony Barr and all that type of stuff, just like the grit and determination and like a kid was just crazy to see. And even if he was making bad plays, he was at least making them look like he was, trying to win.
Yeah.
So
and absolutely. And
he's an exception.
Yeah, I think he's an exception, but I just think the idea that he has those 3 years, he has multiple years of experience under his belt is just enough to put him in a conversation, like a top 5, top 10 conversation, where Justin Jefferson, you're just assuming he's going to put up those numbers again. I don't know. It's kind of a contradictory argument. That was a very good point.
I had to say it. It popped in my head, and I got to get him with this one.
It's tough. It is tough, but I guess my reasoning would be what I said, just the fact that we kind of saw what he had to offer, and we have those couple of years to back it up. And all of the film guys will say, you just watch the film. We saw what Josh Allen had, and it's kind of true, right? He just needed the help around him. He just needed a little bit more experience, and we knew that the explosion would come, and it did. Justin Jefferson, we'll see if the explosion happens once again. That's just how I feel about that. And you also, going back to Kyle Pitts for 1 second. For a guy like Kyle Pitts, if he doesn't produce, say he produces at a, maybe an average level, do you still think that people would overhype him and put him in, a top 10 just because of the lack of tight ends?
I think so. I think that he's still a top 10 tight end, even if he has an average season. Mm-hmm. Just because, I think that average is kind of, average might be different for Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Okay.
He might have like a good season, but it's not what you're quite expected. Right. And I think that he still has top 10 talent. That, like, just based off my own personal projection, I think that he will, end up by year 4 or 5, he'll be top 5, top 10. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's fair. And that's also true. Like, what is average in terms of Kyle Pitts? It's completely dependent.
Because he's not an average guy. He's not an average guy. So,
yeah, that's what we're all expecting. We're being told that this kid is going to be this generational tight end talent. So that's what we're all expecting. So an average season from Kyle Pitts could be the best season that George Kittle's ever had. Like, we don't exactly know what we're getting in Kyle Pitts. So that's a very good point. And so it will be interesting. I, for one, have high expectations for Kyle Pitts because I think he's just in such a favorable situation. That team is going to be losing a lot. They're going to be throwing the ball quite a bit. And Julio Jones is gone. So he's going to be kind of that other piece to Calvin Ridley. They're going to be focusing on Calvin Ridley a lot more, at least to begin with. So I think Kyle Pitts is going to be seeing a lot of volume early and often. So I am expecting him to pop off. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was a top 5 tight end 3 or 4 weeks into the season because just the situation he's in.
I wouldn't be either, to be honest.
Yeah, Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year. I think he'll be in the rookie of the year conversation, but because of the way awards are, it's such a quarterback based system. Maybe he'll get it, maybe he won't, but I think he'll have a good enough season to.
I think it'll be Justin Fields.
You think so?
Yeah, I think
he's going to see the field early enough.
Yeah, I think so. I think that. I mean, I love my guy Andy Dalton. He's got the same hair color as me, so I gotta love him. But yeah, I just don't think that. I think A-Rich is like pretty spot on with that. I would say like week 4-ish. Yeah, is when we're gonna see Justin Fields, and he might like go crazy. So
right, yeah. And as much as I want Justin Fields to play, I don't believe in the Bears to make the correct decisions. I just feel like Andy Dalton. They're playing Andy Dalton. They're calling him the starter, and I think Matt Nagy specifically. He's not the brightest guy in my opinion. I think he's going to stick with Andy Dalton as long as he's not doing absolutely horrendous. If he's even hit or miss, if he's just completely inconsistent, that'll be enough. Like if he's having one good game here, one bad game here, and then another good game, another bad game, I think that'll be enough to keep him in. I think it's going to take a lot for Andy Dalton to get taken out because I think Matt Nagy's going to want to defend his decision for as long as he possibly can until he puts Justin Fields in. But I don't know. I just don't believe in the Bears to make the right decisions, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean they haven't shown that they can make the right decisions. So
yeah,
valid thought.
So we'll see what Justin Fields has to offer. Same with Trey Lance. I guess we'll touch on Mac Jones real quick. Why not touch on him as well? Another guy that we don't know if we're going to see this season, if at all. I think we'll see Justin Fields and Trey Lance. I don't know about Mac Jones.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I have no faith in Cam Newton. I mean, if I was a Patriots fan, I would not have any faith in Cam Newton. I mean, he didn't even show like a glimmer of hope last season, in my opinion. I think it was bad, but it was nice for me to watch.
Yeah, right.
But I think that we will see Mac Jones, I guess. Maybe like halfway point in the season. I think that if it's going badly for the Pats and they picked up all these free agents and they made all these moves to try and get some pieces around Cam Newton, and if that's not going to work, then nothing's going to work. Mm-hmm. And I think that might be the end of Cam Newton, at least in New England, and then Mac Jones will step in, and we'll see where that goes. I don't know too much. I don't have too much of a prediction for Mac Jones, I guess. For what he could become, but you know.
Yeah, I don't really either, to be honest. I couldn't even tell you what week I think he's going to come in at because we just don't know what Cam Newton we're going to get. Because that Cam Newton, I don't know if Cam Newton can even replicate how bad Cam Newton was last year. That's how bad Cam Newton played. Yeah. I think he's absolutely going to bounce back, but I don't know if it'll be enough to be a decent quarterback. I think it'll just be better just in terms of how bad it actually was. So we'll see. I guess it just all depends on how the season's going. Maybe if it's like week 8, week 9, and the Patriots are 3-5 or something like that. Maybe they'll throw Mac Jones a bone, but otherwise, I think they'll just probably ride out Cam Newton. This is actually his do or die year. I think if he's done in New England, I don't think he's getting another chance anywhere else.
No, I agree.
This is definitely his season to prove if he's got anything left in the tank. All right, so I mean that's all the games I got for you, Eli. You got any questions or anything you want to talk about today?
No, man. I got nothing. But thank you for having me on.
Of course. It was a blast, man. I appreciate you sticking through all the bumps and bruises. I'm still trying to figure and smooth everything out. So I appreciate you being cool.
No, yeah, it's all good.
You made it very easy for me. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Love the questions. All the games are fun. I like it. Yeah.
So thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Anytime.
So there we go. Week 4 of Coach Me Up is in the books. Eli was a pleasure to have on. It was an awesome time talking to him. I just want to say thank you to him for 1, coming on, and 2, rolling with the punches. And I want to say thank you to you as the viewer as well for rolling with the punches with me because I am figuring everything out, smoothing this process all out. It will be perfect one day, and I know it will be, but I really hope you enjoy. Be sure you check out Eli's socials. It will be down in the description below. I'll have his Twitter down there, his podcast as well. If you guys have any thoughts, leave them down in the comment section below. But if you enjoyed today's video, as always, please like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. If you want to hit the bell to be notified when I upload, I would appreciate that. If you want to go over to Twitter, follow me over there. I would appreciate that as well. I'm a part of the Built in Buffalo content creation team. If you enjoy Buffalo Bills content, be sure to follow and subscribe to us on any social media you might have. And I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.